What is going on, Nissan Nation? It's your buddy Dave here of the Nissan Nation Productions, and alongside we've got Danny over there in SoCal, and tonight we have a special guest. Danny, why don't you set this up, Dan? You need to introduce this big deal.
I did. I'm stoked to be here today with we'll call him a famous YouTuber, the famous YouTuber, Rye, the car guy. He has helped focus many minds on fixing their Xterras, Mustangs, and a couple various other projects and whatnot. Whether it's modifications or getting your truck running good. He's got a really rad YouTube channel, Rye the car guy. Rye, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Doing great. I really appreciate you guys bringing me on here. This is my first big live event here, so I'm really honored that it's with you guys for sure.
Well, nice, man.
Yeah, I'm stoked to have you.
So for those that don't know, like, Ryan, let's just jump right into it. What is your background? I mean, I see obviously you do a lot of mechanical stuff, but and of course we're Nissan people, and we've seen that you do a lot of Xterra stuff. But kind of what started you down this YouTube path? Where did you come from?
So I definitely had a lot of experience with vehicles, and I've always worked on my own cars, just kind of like a backyard mechanic. And I've bought and purchased like just mountains of cars over time, all different kinds of makes and models. But I was an IT guy for probably 10 to 13 years. And one of my primary jobs was to train new people that came into my job. And I really loved it. And the more that I trained, the more that I loved it. And over time, I was kind of like, okay, I really like this whole training thing. I'm not a huge fan of the IT work that I do. And so I'd really like to effectively do as much training as I can and kind of move away from IT. And as I was working on my cars, and I'd buy something that needed a whole ton of work, maybe it was a cheap cash car. And I was like, I could be training people on how to do this. And this can be kind of my outlet to my training that I want to do.
Right.
And basically kind of born of that. And just the more cars I bought, the more I was working on them. And I was like, hey, let's buy a camera. Let's buy a camera and see if we can help other people out and train other people how to do this.
Well, but YouTube is a monster all in itself. Like, it's one thing to learn how to fix cars and know kind of what you're doing. And it's another thing to be able to present it, edit it, and in kind of a short form, really. I mean, if you really wanted to break down building a vehicle or fixing something, you could have a 4-day long video, like, it's hard to present it right. And you seem to do a great job with that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think one of the big things was creating almost like a catalog, right? So like being like, let's break down whether it be a big job or just a specific thing and say, hey, if you have this particular car and you need to fix this one thing, just go watch this one video. And then I knew that over time, if I just kept doing that, it would create like a library or a resource for a specific vehicle. And
absolutely,
the Xterra just ended up being that vehicle I did the most on,
Yeah, for sure. And I was just right before we got on, I was just hopping in and looking and going through some of the videos. I've watched quite a few of your videos over the time. I think the most recent is like a cam sensor video. Am I correct on that? For the Xterra, I think. Yeah. But then on top of that, you have a little bit of a you modified. You put an oil catch can on it. You've done some other things other than just fixing too, right? Are you like into modding vehicles much? Is that kind of a part of your hobby, or are you kind of just fix, like, do you have a lot of vehicles you're fixing all the time?
Yeah, so my primary motivation is always to get cars like mechanically sound, and of course get them back to as close to stock as they can, at least mechanically speaking. Right. But then most of the mods I end up doing are things that like backup cameras or better radios or subwoofers, because at the end of the day, I'm kind of what's a good feature whore is kind of a terrible word for it, but I really,
nice.
I really like having like if I'm going to buy a car.
That's a great term.
If I want to buy a car, I just want to get like the most features that I can out of it.
Yeah.
And especially with the Xterra. Like I bought the
Yeah, you
base.
have the base model. It's like an S, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize that you could get cars with crank windows back in 2005. But you
Wow,
can.
it has crank windows. It had crank windows in '05.
Yeah, and no power locks either.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they did some very basic stuff early on, and then it just never sold. So they were
I guess
just like,
I guess
dump it.
both of my so I had an '04 Xterra and then I had an '06 Xterra, but both of them were like the top end version. Like my '04 was the supercharged version, so it had all the bells and whistles, and then my '06 was an off-road version, and it had
Nice.
as many bells and whistles as you would say. But I guess I've never like hopped into an '05 or '06 base model. So yeah, that probably immediately makes you want to. You're like, can I get any features? Really, I need something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the whole like leaning over to roll your window up before a car wash, like the old days. And
yeah. I went from having and this is going to date me a little bit. I had a 1990 Buick Regal. First car I ever had that had power everything. I was like, it was a grandma's car, but you get used to the power features. And then in '95, I bought a brand new Firebird, and I could only afford manual everything. And yeah, you like you were saying, all of a sudden you're reaching everywhere, like this like stuff you take for granted at the dealership, and suddenly you're like, oh crap.
Oh yeah, like every time you lift the tailgate, you got to throw the key in it and unlock it.
Yeah.
Like you don't think about that because it's always unlocked, but it's a huge pain actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How do you live? How did people live back then?
I know, yeah, olden days, man.
Even my 19. So I have a 1990 300Z. It has power windows, and it actually has power locks. Like if you lock it, does it have power locks? Like if you just like do the door lock?
No,
Wow, because like my Z,
multi-turn?
yeah, like my Z, you turn it and then both doors lock, or you turn it the other way, and then wow,
there's one of those big cranks you have to stick in the front and turn it to start the car too.
There's this thing you attach mules to at the front of it.
Hit the horn, it goes. Hey!
Absolutely, yeah, just like that.
So what kind of led you to the Xterra though? What was the path? I mean, what's a little background with that?
So to be honest, it was really happenstance. So the Florida, I don't know if anyone knows that Florida is absolutely notorious for like super cheap, kind of like second-rate car dealerships that are a little bit shady. Kind of like they go to the auctions and get the ones that no one else wants to buy. You know,
right.
And there was a dealer right around my house that has, it's one of those, they advertise with best cash cars, only 2 miles off the highway. And I actually really loved the place. It was two brothers that ran it, and they would always have like ludicrously cheap cars. Like you can grab
Nice.
you could grab a Z4 for probably $2,500.
Nice.
You can get 3 Series for like $1,500, and it was there that I found the Xterra, and I've always wanted one. So growing up, I always liked the way that they looked. I loved the way that the roof line is notched. I loved a little bump out in the tailgate. And I was like, hey, it's like $3,000, and when you drive it, it seemed pretty strong. But I knew that the way that it sounded, it had that secondary timing chains had gone on it.
Yeah, so
you
get the tick and
the guides, yeah.
For sure, and that terrible whining. So
yeah,
I knew it
needed supercharged. No,
yeah,
broken.
Just sounds like it. Yeah, just sounds like it. But so I picked that up, and we both love manual cars, so the kind of keeping the manuals going as long as we can, because I know those are going the way of the dodo. So the stars aligned. It was like, hey, I've always wanted an Xterra. This one's cheap, manual. Let's do it. So, and then I got it home and realized just how many things that had been neglected on it, and I was like, hey, this is the thing now. We can start making videos on this.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a Juke like that nobody watches videos on, so I completely understand.
The Juke?
Yeah, I literally bought the Juke, and it was like, it was pouring down, raining, and I knew I was looking for it had to be manual transmission. I didn't want the CVT at all, and nothing against the CVT. I'm a spirited driver. I want to get in a car and feel like I'm connected to it. And yeah, I got it home, and it wasn't a day late. Like it was dead on the on the dealer lot, and I thought, you know how batteries will just decharge, and I thought, well, okay, and he charged it, or he jump started it. It did fine. The little key fob, the battery was, and it was like you. I went to one of those little mom and pop places that are like a buy here, pay here almost place, but it was the only one in the Middle Tennessee area that had a manual transmission car. And like I should have known then. I was like, great, the key fob now is not working because the little light, the little key light for it didn't know the key was in the car. You have to keep it so close when the battery's dead. I did all that. And I got it home. A day later, it wouldn't start. So then I have to go dump a battery into it, and then something else. And I'm like, what did I?
And those things are cheap.
Yeah. I was like, what did I get myself into all of a sudden? But it's fun.
Absolutely, and if it's not something that you're like, maybe it's an extra car. It's not like your daily.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, why not? It can be as unreliable as we want it to be while we're working on it and getting it fixed up, and then it becomes a passion project.
Right. But unfortunately, I'm not as skilled as you at repairing and making cool videos on it. My videos usually are just like, look, I did it. See you later. click subscribe.
That works too. I'll watch that.
Speaking of videos, sorry, Danny. Let me ask this one question. I'll give them to you. So your latest video, I commented this afternoon about the ending of it, where you had the Clintons under the car after the frame. That was freaking hilarious and so creative, and it caught me off guard.
Wait, I missed this one. You got to give me a lowdown on this.
Explain it, Ryan.
I just looked at you. I got to hear this.
So I repainted the frame of the Xterra. I did like the PR15.
Oh yeah, the
cross preventive one. And so I had a rail. I had this camera rail, and I was like, oh, I finally have a reason to use my camera rail. And I slid the camera across the rail and basically took a before and after shot of the frame. And I thought to myself, well, in the frame of the video, the rail's at the very top, or the frame rail's at the very top, and it's kind of moving in a certain direction, right? And for whatever reason, I don't know why, it popped in my head that I remember Hillary Clinton losing her mind over those fireworks, right? She was so pumped about the fireworks and had that funny look on her face. I was like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do it. So as it went from the before to the after photo, she's like, it's just as she's getting excited about the fireworks. It was pretty great.
Bill's looking up like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how
caught me off
I gotta
guard,
go
man.
check that out.
Oh, Danny, it's great, man, because I'm sitting here watching, well, that was a good video, man. Then all of a sudden I was like, bam, wait, this is hilarious.
It's kind of fun.
Awesome.
But go ahead, Danny. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you're good. I didn't have anything.
How do you top that? How do you top that?
I know you cut me off with the Hillary and Bill.
That's actually marking like it's something I'm doing different in my channel. So I'm actually trying to put a little more fun into it.
A little more fun into it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little more personality. So if you go back, you don't have to go back very far. A couple months, less than a year, and my videos are kind of how do you say, not necessarily cold, but very like specific. Here's the thing. Here's how you fix it.
A little more dry.
Yeah, and it's helpful. But man, I want to start getting something a little more.
Yeah, throw a little personality, a little something that you can chuckle while you're at it. Just adds to the. And I've been trying to do that too, and I think that's part of just growing on YouTube and learning. Like, hey, you know what? You go back and you watch a video, and of course you're going to be ultra critical of everything you do. I'm not, because I know that I'm awesome, but some people are. Sometimes Dave texts me, no, but you look at yourself, you're like, is that even me? You're like, I'm never this professional. I say that a lot because I never am professional.
Oh, Kelly, thank you
some
for
of my
that
earlier
super
videos.
Chat. Sorry, Danny. Kelly, thank you for that super chat. And Kelly, I apologize to you because I think I called you a lady the last time, and you were a man, sir. And I appreciate that, and I tip my hat that's not here to you. So I apologize for that, and thank you for that super chat. Sorry, Dan.
It's all right. Again, I forgot what I'm talking about again.
See, you get a couple drinks in this,
so anyways, you do.
We had a question here, Danny. One of the best questions. What are we drinking tonight, Danny? I've got, so locally when the pandemic happened, they opened up bars. You could send out margaritas and mixed drinks, and it's supposedly sealed by Scotch tape over the lid. But so I've been taking full advantage of that, Danny. What's in your glass tonight?
I have an Alpine Beer Company Duet.
A Duet.
7% little beer here, and they're freaking delicious. It's an IPA, but normally I'm a little less of a fan of IPAs. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good beer to drink. But this one's premium, dude. It's good drinking beer, and it's not like even in the heat you can drink it.
Nice.
So.
Ryan, you got anything in your glass tonight, man?
Yes, I do. This is actually kind of weird. This is rum, and it's
Rum.
just rum.
Clear?
Like,
Nice.
Yeah, like so you would think instantly like, hey, you have to mix it, but there's actually a place down the street from me that makes absolutely killer rum. It's called Copper Bottom Distilleries, and they're just north of Daytona. Super cool place, and they make just absolutely delicious rum. You can literally just drink it with rocks.
Cool. So
Yeah.
they're just a little rum distillery, huh?
Yeah, they make rum and vodka and like a couple of aged things, and that's it.
Dude, I love that. Like we live in
like it,
such an age now where like there's little breweries everywhere, and some are good, some aren't. Like let's be honest,
Sure.
some of the IPAs out there are just
most yeah. Well,
Danny, you're a
most of
brewer.
the time
You do a brewery, so I can't.
I'm a
talk to
brewery
you.
snob, but most of the time it's like it's better than the swill that you used to be able to buy. Like up until I don't know 10, 15 years ago or something like that, it was like nothing good in the United States as far as beer, unless you were like really searching. There's 10 breweries in every town.
Yeah.
Well, at least out here in California.
But it's even for alcohol, it's kind of getting that way because I mean, once moonshine was available to be sold legally, it's like there's a million moonshine places now.
It's a new thing. It's in vogue.
Is that a Tennessee thing, Dave?
It is a Tennessee
like a million
thing.
moonshine.
Dude,
thing?
there's like I guarantee you, there are at least 5 within a 50-mile area of me.
Tonight on Boozer Nation Productions.
Let's scratch this out. Nice. But anyways, so guys, bring your questions because Rye is our I'm gonna say you're the resident expert on fixing things, and so if you guys have any questions, we do appreciate the super chats.
I got a question.
Wait, Danny, I'm selling. Remember, always be closing.
I know. I just wanted to make sure I was going to get in next because I remembered what I was going to say earlier.
But guys, if you have questions, anything, let us know, and we'll try to relay here to Ryan. And if you haven't yet, Ryan, even though he's a big deal on YouTube, he needs your support on Instagram. And I believe I have it's Rye_the_car_guy. Go like and subscribe to Ryan because he's posting a bunch of cool pictures, and if you don't, Danny's he's gonna go take that Z and sell it. I think so. So that's a bold statement.
Whoa, Dave! Don't be putting my dirty laundry out like that.
Anyways, Danny, go ahead, buddy.
Jeez, man, you pulled me off topic. No, so I wanted to ask you, right? What is on the Xterra? And again, I mean. I'm trying to think back of any other Nissans. I mean, of course, you fixed other cars. We'll stick to the Xterra because that's kind of like the most prominent, I think, on your channel that you've worked on for us. What's the worst job you did on that thing? The word like you're like I'd never want to do that job ever again.
Buying it?
Hands down, it's got to be the secondary timing chains.
Really? Yeah.
Because it's so much work.
Yeah, it was so brutal, and it was one of those things where the car had never been apart before, and the engine hasn't been apart before, and it was one of those things where you had to be super precise, right? Because it's interference engine. So if you get something wrong with the timing, you blow it up. So it's nerve-wracking, and it was one of those things where you just had to keep digging and digging and digging, and it took me so many hours. And then it was just to do at the very end. It was this little tiny, stupid plastic piece that I had to replace after so much work and reassembly. Right. It was so frustrating. So it was absolutely that, for sure.
I can see that. I have to do that on my race truck, and I've put it off. Luckily for me, it's like I have all electric fans, and there's nothing in front of it, so I can basically pull out my radiator and my 2 electric fans, and then I have like a wide open berth. So it'll be, and then I don't have AC or anything in there, so it won't be terrible, but I'm sure I'm gonna have to do that pretty soon. So, but that's a big prevalent job that if I think that's one of the best things that you see on YouTube is where you take a job like that and you break it down and you show it and you go through it. Sometimes it takes some of the creepy aura around it where you're like, I'm never going to be able to do that. And you watch a video like, you know what, if I just, these are the problems that you're going to run into, but these are the fixes, And so if you buy a truck, whether it's a Frontier or an Xterra, a Pathfinder even, and it's got that problem, but you're picking it up for dirt cheap. It makes it a little, it gets people into these, which is a really reliable vehicle for pretty cheap, you know. And if you throw a couple bucks at it here and there, and then all of a sudden you have this vehicle that's extremely capable, rides great, should last you another 100,000 miles or something like that, you know. So those are super important videos on YouTube, in my opinion.
Well, and thank God Nissan sort of fixed that problem too.
Well, yeah, wasn't it after like 2008 or something? They did something about it.
Was it 08 or 09? Yeah.
Nines. Yeah, it was a little after,
Yeah, I
but
think they changed the material or not.
For sure, Danny, I agree though, because it's one of those things that takes the mystery out of it, and hopefully it puts people at ease, right? And says like, hey, if a dealership or maybe a local shop wants to charge me $2,500, maybe I can't swing that right now, and let me take a crack at it myself, and it kind of empowers people, right? Empowers people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they learn so much too. So just from doing that one job, you can learn so much about your engine by taking that. I mean, it's huge. It's huge.
I remember the first time I pulled off a timing chain on a BMW when I was a BMW mechanic.
Cheers, everybody! Did you get a drink?
But that's right.
That's right. If anybody's ever heard of Vanos, it's a bunch of magic and voodoo with BMW. But oh my gosh, I was so freaked about it. But I had a great mechanic that kind of stood behind me and explained it as I went. And after I was done with that first job, I was like, wasn't that bad. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. You take one step at a time, you go through it. And as you're taking something off, you know how to put it back on because you just took it off. You just take your time and put it together. But it's daunting when looking at it from the outside as a whole, and you're looking at the front of the car, you're like, oh, there's so many pieces, there's so many bolts, but part of it is just,
that's the thing.
Chipping away.
Taking something apart is easy. And it's kind of fun initially, but it's the putting it back together is where you're all stressing out of, did I do this right? Did I torque this right? Did I, that's to me the stressful part of it.
It's like when you're doing home renovations, the demolition is always the easiest and most fun, right? And then you're like, oh wait, you're standing there in an empty room and you got to redo it. But it's one of those things you have to jump in somewhere, right? So even if it's not something that you're used to, or maybe you're afraid to start, do something small. It sounds crazy, but just start with an oil change. If you've never changed your oil before, do that.
Yeah.
Start doing your routine maintenance. Do tranny fluid. Do diff fluid. And then eventually start, maybe fixing PCV or your intake or throttle body, stuff that's a little bit easier, and then just start going a little bit deeper.
Once you knock those things out, you definitely gain confidence from each thing that you tackle. You're like, wow. I mean, brakes to some people are some kind of like magic voodoo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when I say, listen, I'll come over and do your brakes, but how about I come over and just you do them and I point. Because once I point and tell you how it works, you'll be like, that's it? And I'm like, yeah.
It's really that simple.
A lot of brakes are like two bolts, especially if you're just doing some pads or something like that. But yeah, brakes are voodoo to some people. And you're like, no, they're not voodoo at all. I mean,
I did my
some newer cars have electric e-brakes, and that'll throw people for a loop. But it's still, it's magic voodoo until you look it up and you go, oh, okay, I just have to do this crazy yodel and turn the key 3 times and press the e-brake and it turns it off for a minute to do brakes.
Yeah, because I did my Juke. I was changing the wheels out, and I was going to do just buying a used car. I'm going to change everything out whether it needs it or not. And I was like, I'm just going to do the brakes. And I think it was 15 minutes per side. They're stupid simple, and especially in your little commuter cars. They're very basic. It's nothing complicated.
Yeah, nothing fancy.
Yeah, because you're not paying for complicated, so you're not getting complicated. So with Danny's BMW stuff, they overthink everything.
Yeah, 17 special tools to do the brakes, but
yeah, I got a good one. So Frank B said that's how good mechanics have spare bolt bin, because they put something together and had extra parts. I'm curious, do you have what I personally like to call the shipping bolt drawer, where you put all your shipping bolts? Where you throw it in the drawer and you go, that one was they put that one in for shipping.
Yeah, that was an extra. That was an extra just in case, right? Totally. I haven't I can't say I have like an amassed collection or anything, but I've definitely gotten done with jobs and been like, ooh, I'm just gonna pretend this doesn't exist. So just kind of put this aside.
It started.
So yeah, I mean, it runs, but no, I think a lot of times. So that's one thing that I try to portray as well is like good organization. And that's super tough when you're working on it. You're working on something, you have 50 parts off, but just being super organized can help
That makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't look in my garage because it's not organized at all. You can tell when you look at mine, I'm not the mechanic, and I kid, I can do things, but my garage is like total chaos. Like I have my little area, my wife is the whole rest of the garage of whatever she has in there, and I'm like, well, I bought this house for the car to go in the garage, but it's never going to go in the garage. So, but I watched on one of your videos, like I look at your garage and it's pretty, it's very clean. When you pull something in and you show that you're putting, cardboard down and and whether you preach it or not, those are like showing people, hey, this is, oil getting on your garage cement floor is probably not the end of the world, but there's preventative things you can do.
Yeah. And it's terrible for your skin too. So,
exactly.
wearing proper PPE is a good thing too. So,
right.
So listen, hold on. Listen, today I went to work and I literally sat through a 4-hour supervisor safety meeting. So if I hear PPE or OSHA or anything today, I swear to you, I'm just going to start cranking these back because I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning on a Sunday and it wasn't just, it was military. So it was OSHA and military stuff. So I sat there and listened to somebody drone on about military and safety. So I don't think I need. Let's just refrain. It's triggering me.
So Danny, let's see. Lance Early, totally empowered me to change my spark plugs. I was nervous, but I had his video on the laptop and followed along step by step. Saved me a ton of money and gained a lot of confidence. And he says, "Thank you."
That's awesome. Hey, that's really cool. Well, you're definitely welcome.
That's super sweet.
Do you find that people, because you are a kind of a how-to channel, I mean, you do some other things, but you're pretty much this is how I do it. Do you find that people hit you up a lot and want to communicate and like, hey, thank you. You did do a lot for me on this.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, my sort of fan base, if you will, it sounds kind of weird saying that, but people that watch my videos, the comment section of my videos are usually incredibly positive, and they're usually people that are saying, hey, thanks for helping me out. I was worried about doing this. And then there's also a lot of questions. And so what I try to do is I try to respond to literally everything. And it takes up a lot of time,
I bet.
But it's one of those things where I want people to feel like not only can they come and watch videos, but they can come and interact with people who can help them out,
Right.
So to answer your question, yes, absolutely. I get a lot of it. I get a lot of it through Instagram, actually, believe it or not. And of course, through YouTube comments.
Mm-hmm.
And also I'm a mod over at the Xterra subreddit on Reddit. And there's a lot of communication there as well. A lot of helpful people.
Do you find that because we were talking before the show, obviously, like we've been in YouTube for a long time, but you did something with it where we just till last year started doing something with it. Do you find that people on Reddit versus other social platforms do you find each platform to be different the way they communicate to you?
100%. So the Reddit, and I'll reserve my opinions on Reddit as well, but I can tell you that the Reddit Xterra subreddit is actually a pretty healthy place.
Yeah.
And not a whole lot of like tit for tat, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That there's a lot of in the Mustang community.
Mustang,
and I struggle with that.
I've noticed that the Frontier Reddit is pretty low key. Like usually just a couple posts and some high fives and whatnot. So yeah, it's pretty chill. It's less than some of the other forums I've seen where it's like, if you come in there and you're like, hey, I got a new Frontier, and I think it's less of a gang of everybody that's like modded their vehicle to the nth degree, and when the new guy comes in, they're like, you don't know that yet, bro.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So which is kind of nice.
Well, I can tell you that the thing about Reddit is you kind of make a name for yourself, right? With their whole karma system, if you will.
Yeah.
And on YouTube, it's way easier to be nasty to someone and just leave, right? So contrasting that against Reddit, when you do look at YouTube and you go through comments, there are just people that just want to be nasty for the sake of being nasty, and you just gotta tune them out. But so yeah, absolutely, there's definitely a difference between the two.
Do you find that was Reddit a big place for your success?
Not at all. Actually, I just recently started getting into Reddit, mostly
Right.
because I wanted just another avenue to kind of bounce ideas off people and help other people out. And it kind of just came from it. Just I don't know, just kind of a natural thing. I don't know actually. How did I get on Reddit? Does anyone know?
Well, you would be the guy
I'm there
that
with
asked.
you. I think my buddy was a big Reddit guy, and he's always showing me. And he's like a weird Reddit guy. Like, oh, did you see this Reddit subgroup or whatever? And it's like people who smack people, you know, like in the face, like
No.
fortunate smacks or something like that. I'm like, what is this Reddit thing? You know, eventually he told me, and I'm like, yeah, there's got to be something good that comes out of this page. So eventually I found out that, you know, there's a bunch of Nissan stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, there is some like normal stuff in here. I bet it's so huge. But yeah, that's kind of how I ended up there. And I share some of our stuff on there. And a couple of our, you know, my build pictures and whatnot. I'm not super checking it every day or anything, but it's got some cool stuff on it for sure. And you know, if it, there's so many different avenues you can, whether it's Facebook groups or just Instagram or, I mean, even LinkedIn. I think I share stuff on LinkedIn.
Oh, really?
You know,
Yeah.
it's more for like internet marketing stuff like that. But it's just you know, wherever you kind of find your group and your niche, it's good to be able to kind of step into that space and be like, hey, you know, everybody, this is what I do, and you know, it's nice to be able to get supported and be able to. I mean, really, you're filling a need, right? You're filling a need of people that would like somebody to simply explain a repair procedure on XYZ. And so filling
No
that
BS.
need, and then like you said, you know, you're adding some more fun to it so that it's not, you know, so that, you know, while you're doing something, you can, you know, have a good chuckle, you know, like there's nothing better than good. I mean, it's good. Like the reason I contacted you, because I said, you know what, this guy has great content and he should have more subscribers and more views, because there's so many times you see people like, hey, how do I do this? Hey, I have this problem, this, you know, and I'll share your link to your, hey, it's simple, replace the cam sensor or whatever, you know, and here's a very simple how to. If you can't figure it out from this, call your mechanic.
In your trouble.
Call a
I think,
tow truck.
How-tos in general, right? How-tos in general are something that I think YouTube is an excellent resource for, because it's not
for sure.
It's not just teenage vloggers and, you know, YouTube sponsored content. It's also a great place to just say, like, listen, this can absolutely be a library of anything that you need to know. You just go to YouTube, search it, and it's there. And I think it's really speaks to like the way that society is going in general. And there's obviously still a place. I'm not trying to replace mechanics. I'm not trying to tell people not to go to mechanics. And in a lot of cases, I'll actually say, like, listen, if you're not confident doing this, don't do it.
Right.
Because the last thing I want to do is encourage someone to damage their vehicle, right? Or not that I don't want to feel directly responsible for saying, hey, you can do this. I promise you can do this. Go try it and then have them blow it up, right?
Some people aren't mechanics and should never touch mechanical things.
Well, you know, right? So you said you're in your mid-30s. You're in your hush, Danny. So you're in your mid-30s. So you're kind of what I would consider a tweener of old forums and this new social media, because me and Danny are a product of old forums. Like, they used to be there was picture details step by step. You know, they would take a picture of it.
Back in our day.
No, but so then about your age group, you get Facebook groups start happening, which are a cesspool of just like you were saying, just people not really willing to help, and they like Danny was saying too, of like they're just going to chew, you know, because it's a lot of older mechanics that just don't care anymore. Like, their filter's gone. And so then now, like, YouTube is really, because when YouTube came out in 2005, there's no idea. Like, YouTube was just, you just drop a clip on it and it is what it is. And so so channels like yours now are really filling that void of the old forums where it was detailed step-by-step pictures. Like, you literally can pause what you're doing, pause it, go do what you just said to do, and then hit play again and kick right back in. And it's just so more interactive.
I love that. And that's what really makes it it's what makes it special. And so, like, there was actually a channel they're right up the street from me. I can't think of where they are, but they had a TV screen mounted in their garage,
Mhm.
and they sent me an Instagram post, and they're like, "Hey, thanks for walking us through this process." It was on like a Jetta or something,
Yeah.
and they're just like standing there. They have a laptop underneath it. They're
Yeah.
playing it and while they're wrenching. It's super cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Man.
Yeah, I'm planning on putting a TV in my garage this next weekend because, well, one, I just like to watch car shows while working on car stuff.
Yeah. I want to too.
Because
but
I gotta get
camera.
everything. I'm super ADD, so I need like 14 things happening at the same time.
Have the radio playing, TV
Really
on.
helps.
He's really
Yeah,
playing a video
yeah.
game right now while he's like doing something else, which you
Yeah,
just don't know.
Candy Crush, like yeah, man.
Well, now I have to ask this question. So, is there ever and I do this, so this is a legit question that I do. So, is there ever a repair that you're doing and you're like, time out, let me go to YouTube because I've got to see how somebody else approached this?
Absolutely. And so
Yes.
a lot of things that it's tough because a lot of people will come to you as if you're an authority. I'm not really an authority on the VQ40DE.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, do I know a lot about it from my personal experience? 100%. But at the end of the day, in some cases, I'm just learning along with the people watching, right?
Right.
And I just have the benefit of being able to turn off the camera, learn what I'm doing, go back in front of camera, and present it, right? And then it's the magic of television, so to speak, when you can cut it and edit it and everything else. So, but absolutely. So I have a factory service manual. I use that for just about everything, and I'll absolutely jump on YouTube and be like, "Hey, how does this guy do it? How did he approach it?"
Right.
And sometimes it's even like when I went to work on my Armada, I had a oil which, by the way, I fixed for all those people that had listened to me talk about it before. The oil filter cooler seal. And I ended up watching like 5 different videos because all I needed to see was exactly how the seal was installed in it. And some guys would pull it down, some guys wouldn't. I just needed like this one clip from like 40 videos, you know. And I'm like, how did they install it? Because I had put it on, it leaked, put it on, it leaked, got a new seal, put it on, it leaked. I'm like, I'm doing something wrong here, and everybody seems to be doing it right. And I think it was me just overthinking it and like, oh, this is how it goes, you know. And sure enough, I just installed the seal a little bit wrong, and you know, it puked. But it took an extra quart of oil and 3 different installations of something that should have taken me 10 minutes.
For sure. But is there anything more irritating though when someone does a video like that and then like will not show it and then sort of describe it and then skip it, you know?
Well, yeah, in your cash can video, I was stoked to see you because I was like, I don't think I've paid attention to the secondary. I had always kind of just looked at the engine. Okay, you know, your crankcase goes from valve cover to the intake on the right side valve cover, and then you go, okay, you know, here's kind of like your primary PCV valve and whatnot, and I was like, oh yeah, I think I remember seeing that hose. You know, I just I've never worked on it, so I never paid attention to that part of the system. I thought eventually I'd probably throw a catch can in my race truck, and so I was like, oh okay, and then you know, come to find out that's where and I was like, cool, you know, just put that in the old memory banks, and when it's time to do that, it's easier, and but you know that's the kind of things, and when I think too, like I keep going back to it, when you throw a little humor in, maybe it's something that I've done before, but then it's like, you know what, I'm gonna watch this guy fix this anyways because he's funny, you know. So it's not just watching you because you fix things, it's watching you because you enjoy your personality and how you go about it. So
yeah, entertaining as well. Nice. You should consider. Are you going to do 2 catch cans on your race truck? Are you going to do one on each side?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it much, to tell you the truth.
You should.
I know the truck, and when you mentioned it, now I had thought about it before. Now I'm like, okay, if it has 2, you know, do I just bet one atmosphere and just not care and kill the environment? So,
we'll get into more of that.
The truck will probably be at like 4,000 RPMs for 50% of its life from here on out. So it's gonna be, you know, there's gonna be a lot of blow by gases that are coming and pumping up, backing in, and I definitely don't want those, because I mean at that RPM and with the heat that I'm going to be running in it, it's probably going to be 100 degrees usually when we're running. So the amount of heat and the RPM is going to just have massive amount of crankcase pressure. So it's definitely something that I'm going to be looking into. So
For sure.
we'll
On
see.
mine, mine's like I'm kind of embarrassed to say it's my little grocery getter, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I go and get parts with it. I use it like a regular everyday SUV. And
Yeah.
I pulled the driver's side off, left side, and it was like super dry. I was like, I don't even need to put, like, there's zero
Right.
oil coming out of my
Yeah.
pressure.
I usually get up to about 2,000 RPM shifts.
Maybe.
So
Rolling-
So I was watching, you did a top 5 video like most people during the pandemic, because like suddenly it's like you can't go anywhere, you can't, like, we're content creators and sometimes you need to be out in the public to do that. What has been the biggest thing with the pandemic? I know you're in Florida, correct? So I know like Florida seems to be the hellhole of America right now as far as what the world thinks of us anyways. How has it affected your channel?
So, well, first of all, from a YouTube in general, it would be a massive reduction in monetization, right?
Yes.
So all advertisers are getting hit. So people aren't advertising if they're not operating businesses.
Yep.
So, so just from that perspective, that's one thing. But also, the honestly, the biggest factor has been my recent move. Is probably the biggest thing. I moved right when we started shutting down,
Right.
and I moved to a new garage. But other than that, it's been kind of status quo, because nowadays you just jump onto Amazon or jump onto Rock Auto or whatever, and everything gets shipped to your door. I have one of the beauties of the format of my channel is that as long as I have a place to fit my Xterra and I can open the hood, I can make a video, right? And even then, when I was running, whether it be boredom because I'm working from home, sitting in the house all day, it was like, hey, let's just try something different. It was really an opportunity to say, let's divert, let's try something that I haven't done before. And that's when the top 5 video came about. Right. And honestly, I feel like it performed pretty well. People seem to enjoy it. And I'll try something like that in the future for sure.
Right. Well, it's a game changer because top 5 things of the Xterra, like everybody's like, great. Well, for one, buy somebody that doesn't know the Nissan brand. And I know Nissan gets crapped on a lot. I think that VQ series engine is a great engine. The transmission they put under that thing, other than the cooler issues that it had initially, Danny's going to run that transmission in his race truck.
It's going to be the first time that transmissions from everybody that I've reached out to, a lot of people, nobody's really raced that trans in the environment that I'm going to put it in. So we'll see how it handles off-road, but I've talked to quite a few people that said that's a stout transmission. As long as you keep your oil temps down, and which is the main thing, that thing will just keep on ticking. So I'm sure I'll probably have to change torque converter and insert tech and science there, and a little sprinkle of wizardry. But yeah, you don't hear about them going out other than when there's the coolant issue. Yeah. Usually. Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure there's people towing over towing with them and stuff like that, but
I know we did your Frontier, Danny.
I towed to the max and I didn't blow my tranny, so
nice. Hey, what were you towing?
An Xterra. Is it race Xterra?
One, I towed my race Xterra, which I'm sure that was probably around, with the trailer, it was probably around 6,000-7,000 pounds. Sure. But then I also towed my like travel trailer, vacation trailer, and I think that was like within a couple 100 pounds of the max tow rating on the truck.
And for those watching, we did a video on that. Danny did a video, and you can watch it.
Yeah. And I don't have gears. I have bigger tires. It's lifted. But it did really well. I wouldn't do it more than necessary.
More than once.
More than extremely necessary.
Sure.
But it did it, and it did it. It put down the work. It was kind of like if I had to go run like 8 miles right now, I could go do it. I wouldn't be walking very good for a couple days, and I'd probably mad at whoever made me do that right now, but I could do it, and the truck did it.
So Ryan, what now that you've messed with the Xterra a long time, obviously you mess with other brands. Overall, because like I was saying earlier, Nissan kind of gets shit on a little bit as kind of like, oh, they're just a garbage brand. They're making garbage products. Our buddy Scotty over there loves to pick on Nissan, like something fierce. And it's getting to be to the point of even journalists that if they have nothing to write about, you can always go to the CVT transmission, or you can. Nissan is an easy target right now. What? Obviously, they don't make the Xterra anymore, but they're still producing the Frontier, even though it's getting a new engine this year. What overall quality? What have you found with this vehicle? Do you think it was a great, for what you paid? Say it was $28,000 when it was new. Was that a good value for that vehicle, knowing that you've had it this long and you've done all this stuff to it?
I absolutely think so. I think a lot of the things come down to standard maintenance, and every single brand is going to have their thing. There's some little weird thing that catches them off guard that is going to cause issues for some people down the road, and Nissan is not unique in that, right? And so I bought it 4 or 5 years ago. Hold on, let me do the math real quick. I bought it when it was about 13 years old.
Yeah, I think in your video you quote it 13 years old or something like that.
Yeah. And it was, at 13 years old, I bought it. I drove it back and forth across the country multiple times. I trusted it to do that. And I packed it down with when I was moving back and forth to Michigan. And it never let me down. The car's never stranded me. I had one time I had an issue getting it started in the Home Depot parking lot because the cam position sensors.
Right.
And that was, I bought it with 132,000 miles, and I have 155 or something on it now.
Yeah.
Nice. And it runs great. And the thing is that what people don't realize is you can make, let's say it was bad. All right. Let's say that it did have issues. There's all kinds of problems. You can make any engine run if you maintain it perfectly and make sure that you're keeping up on anything that goes wrong.
Right.
And to take cars that might have problems down the road and point at it as some sort of failing of a brand doesn't make any sense to me. It never has.
You've never owned a Land Rover Discovery with the 4-liter GM motor.
That's true.
Those motors were built with leaking head gaskets.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? You just change the oil, it'll just keep running. It just leaks.
Well, that was like the old YJs, man. The old Jeep YJs, the Wranglers. Like the carburetors they put on the 4 liters are initially, like, it never ran right from the factory. Like it would leak, the bowl would leak, and all kinds of stuff.
We could say most vehicles,
yes,
with good proper maintenance,
sure,
they'll last a long time.
But the one you don't hear about is Tesla, and why I think you don't hear about Tesla because you never see them out testing anything new. For one thing, they're so secretive, and it's a very tech thing. The way they operate is that you don't show anything till it's out. But a lot of these companies, they can't. They go to the proving grounds in Arizona, and they put thousands and thousands of miles. They go through the hills of Colorado testing elevation, and at some point you can only they have to get the car out. Like they get a couple years to develop it, build it. It's got to start selling because cars are $1 billion thing. Each model costs $1 billion to develop a new model. So when Danny, I love your refrigerator there, buddy.
I love the fridge comes into.
Yeah. You kill me with that.
Nothing's happening over here, boys. Sorry, Dave. Keep on going what you're saying.
I just imagine he's in a room literally with just a black wall, a microphone, and a fridge, and like everything else. There's nothing else in the room at all.
I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to send it to you offline. Exactly what my little studio here looks like. It's even better than what you're imagining.
But so Ryan, what Nissan right now do you look at and go, we're going to say, because you're a repair channel, so at minimum it has to be 10 years old. What Nissan would poke your interest of going, I'd like to own this one to see what I would need to do to it for the channel, basically?
So, well, two things. First of all, I've owned a Leaf, and I actually really like those.
Mm-hmm.
But their maintenance is like what? There's almost zero liquid. running around the engine.
Terrible for the channel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. And I had one. And I was like, oh, you can do a cabin filter, and you can do some whatever. But as far as like internal combustion, I'd hate to say it, but like a Frontier. Yeah. And the only reason I say hate to say it is it's going to have the same engine I'm going to have, right? So, but I would love something 4-wheel drive. I don't know if you guys know it or not. Mine's actually 2-wheel, and that is something that is. It pains me to say it, but it is a 2-wheel, and I do really want to get something that's 4-wheel drive. I have no experience with Nissan 4-wheel drive systems at all.
Right.
So
well, you haven't lived until you've replaced the front diff in an Xterra. I can tell you that.
How about if I install one? What do we think about swapping?
It's well,
that's
done,
that most of the real big off-road guys swap out the Titan front diff into the Xterra, and that's how we know, because you got to pull the steering rack, and no, I'm sorry, to get the steering rack you got to pull the diff.
Yeah,
that's what. Either way, it's not a terrible job.
What I'd like to do is I'd love to find a wrecked 4x4 and do like a 4x4 swap.
Yeah,
that would be very cool, especially because you have a manual, so that would be pretty sweet little setup. I'll trade you transmissions. I need a 2-wheel drive transmission in my race truck.
There you go.
You could do the VK swap. That seems to be pretty popular right now. Have you paid any attention to? There was a question going top 5 mods. Kind of ask you, and this kind of goes to it. Have you paid any attention to the guys swapping the Titan V8s into the littler trucks?
I've been reading minimally about it only because I was looking at the 4-wheel drive swaps, and so it's kind of running hand in hand.
Sure.
And it's doing engine swaps kind of scares me. I guess if it's within the brand, it would be okay. It always worries me when people are like throwing LS1s into old Nissan or something. But either way, yeah, I have, and it seems intriguing. I think the route that would be one of my biggest options if I did ever have the VQ40 blow up. I would want to swap it out for VK. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Well, what are your, so the question was, top 5 modifications for a vehicle. What on any platform, what are your top 5 things that you would go after right away? I know in one of your videos you talk about tie rods and stuff like that, but overall, every brand, what would be the top 5 things you're going, okay, I bought this thing used, I'm going to have to attack, I know I'm going to want to upgrade this.
Okay. For me, it's always going to be breathing. So intake and exhaust would be one of my first ones. Some exhaust systems you find are just utterly ridiculous the way they're designed. So breathing would be my first one. Better in, better out. Depends on the vehicle. I recently bought an older Mustang GT, and so my very first thing was like get hot rod cams in it because that's super cool. Get that wobble going.
Right.
But so basically bolt-ons. So bolt-ons would be my first one, and also tuning. Tuning would be another one as well. It's bang for your buck. If you get a really good tune and a decent tuner, you can end up getting a lot of power out.
Well, we're lucky that we're buddies with Z1 Motorsports in Atlanta. So
anytime
we need tuning things,
you gotta hit them up.
Oh wait, Danny, we're supposed to drink for Z1.
I got
Jesus. I'm not a booze.
Z1.
So Monster, I'm looking for you, Monster. Every show you're gonna see this.
I got a hot tune. So Z1. So I have an intake and exhaust on my Frontier, right? And Z1 sent me a tune, and I sent them an uprev tune. Really nice. It worked really good. Truck's super fast. Nice. So I emailed them and I said, listen, I got a YouTube channel. I need the hottest tune you could possibly put in this thing. If it blows up, it blows up. I got a second vehicle. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, all right, man, I'll send you a hot tune. He's like, don't ever run anything other than 91 in it. I'm like, I won't. So
that's it. All right.
So he sends me the hot tune, and I get it the day before I go on an off-road trip. I end up getting it rear-ended, and my truck's been in the shop for like 4 weeks, and I got this hot tune in my email. I'm like, I just want to put this tune in and go burn the tires off the back of the truck. So, but I will say, I got an AFE intake, AFE exhaust. It sounds amazing, and it, like once you open that motor up, there's a lot of potential. I think Dan Spallinger out, who the rally driver I was mentioning this, he's running almost 280 something horsepower on his VQ. nothing but I mean it's like a completely open race motor, but that's a tuned, you know, basically headers, exhaust, and muffler, and a wide open intake. And for a 4-liter V6, that's, you know, unless you're putting cams and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and having like dry sumps are weird, you know, and just running a very high compression stock motor. That's I think the VQ is really like one of the best bang for your bucks, especially for as much torque. Z1 did a quick thing about how they bumped the torque on the VQ by 45 pounds with just a stock truck with an intake and a tune. 45 pounds of foot-pounds of torque, which is amazing.
That's nuts. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah, so
being able to pull that much out of it.
Yeah. So Danny, Civil Warrior says, Danny is lagging so much. It must be the beer must be strong and affecting his internet. So, so Danny, is it the beer affecting your internet?
I think it's more the boy probably watching Cars 2 again for the 4,986th sixth. Well, it could be the beers too. I can't say sixth. I can't say sixth anymore. So might be my beer lagging.
Let's see. Croy McCready says he is ordering a Z1 short shifter tomorrow for the X. He has a Gen 1 X. And,
nice.
That's going to be cool. Let's see. So we're up rev all day. Do your mods before you do your tune. Of course. Yes. Extreme Buzz. Definitely. So as someone who knows a little bit about tuning and building on vehicles, what I know it's popular. And we asked this of Z1 last week. So a lot of people think, oh, I'll tune it and I can get a lot out of it. And Spencer over there is like, yeah, we can get a lot out of a basic car. You can get something out of it. But
sure.
But for me, I'm thinking exhaust definitely and an intake. And what's your thoughts on that a little bit?
So when it comes to actually tuning, you want to research the specific engine because each one's going to act a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. So for instance, I did it on my Mustang GT earlier this year. It was all about getting the headers on it. It was all about getting it to exit better. And if you take the hot rod cams, well, that one's kind of more expensive. If you take the downpipes and your intake, and then you pair it with a tune, you get something like 30 plus horses. Right. If you do just the tune, it's like 15, right? So I think breathing, no matter what, is also going to pairing with a tune is always going to get you probably your biggest increase for some of the cheapest amount of money, right?
Right.
The only obnoxious thing is that anything that you change that affects your tune, you need to go get it. You need to go get another tune.
Yeah. So
right?
You better map out your build, right?
Yeah. Be strategic. Be strategic about what you're doing and when you tune, because if you go buy a pair of $700 cams and now all of a sudden you need to go spend another $200 getting another custom tune, and so it's like, okay, it kind of hits you, you when you don't want to. So.
Right. Absolutely.
Tim with pickup truck and SUV talk. Thank you, sir, for that $1.99. You just wanted to see the picture of me riding Danny's back there. So Rye, I don't know if you've seen this picture or not, but if you rewatch this, every time somebody super chats, Danny had a picture of his son sitting on his shoulder and doing the father-son thing, like the little kid's up there having fun. So I screenshot or I photoshopped my head onto this. So every time they super chat, you get to see a little picture of me. You just noticed.
That's awesome.
So you get to see that. And next week we're going to change it up. I'm going to find something else that we can throw up there. So guys, anytime you super chat, you get to see that funny picture for a couple seconds anyway. So we do, Tim, I do appreciate that. Let's see. What other brands kind of interest you out here? I know we're Nissan specific, but is there some other car, some old 10-year-old car that you're like, man, I'd like to add that to the channel?
So about that,
when
I was purchasing the, not recently, I guess it was last year now, when I was buying the Mustang, I was seriously considering 370 or 350s at the time.
Right.
And I'm not saying I'm not going to say I regret the Mustang. It's a great car. It's a lot of fun. but I kind of wish I went and got the 350 and took that as the kind of the sporty type upgrade car that
Why is
for
that?
project.
Why? How come?
So I don't know if it's my area. What do you mean? Like, why did I choose Mustang?
Why do you, after buying? Because a Mustang is a cool car. I'm not gonna lie. That's, it's American horsepower. Why do you kind of regret maybe going with the 350 or not going?
Well, because 350's always been on my radar as a car I've wanted for a long time. It was like the Xterra. I've wanted it for as long as I can remember.
Right.
And I've had multiple Mustangs at this point, and it was just kind of one of those things where I was shopping for both, and whichever best deal I found first is what I ended up with. And unfortunately, in my specific area, in Florida in general, the market for Z's is interesting. And what I mean by that is people absolutely mod the living crap out of them, and then they drive them like stock cars.
Yeah.
And every one that you see for sale is just so used and abused, and it was like, yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean,
Danny, we gotta sorry to interrupt you there, right? Danny, Flytrap said he donated $5, and he said, "Danny, drink." Jeez, they're getting aggressive. Oh, Silver Warrior, thank you for that, guys. I do appreciate that. Now Danny can afford another drink thanks to you.
That's right.
So, but you said the 350's always been on your radar. They're very unique. Like comparing a Mustang to a 350 sounds obnoxious, but yet it's not. They're very they're kind of the same car, really.
Well, the difference is if you have a Mustang, you have to drift it into a crowd.
I think that's part of the deal when you buy it.
I think my favorite thing about Mustangs is the stigma about running them into crowds.
Yes, how hungry they are.
doing burnouts and spinning out and hitting curbs. The running joke is pretty good.
Yeah, they got on that meme train and just went crazy.
So Ryan, is there like a button in that Mustang that you push to activate that, where instead of like stability control, it's crowd control?
anti stability control.
It actually works strictly off instinct. The car has a mind of its own.
Yeah.
It just knows to go for it.
You get like a quarter tank of fuel in it. It's like it starts getting hungry, and suddenly it's like Christine, the movie car. It's like pulling itself into crowds.
Yeah.
100%.
So Ryan, ultimately, let's get into, as we end this a little bit. So Nissan, everybody thinks Nissan's in trouble. Oh, they're building boring CVT. Like I said earlier, they get beat up on CVT, and for good reason. Some of it is, a lot of it I think is people need to watch shows like yours, and they need to maintain their vehicle. You get a CVT transmission, once it hits about 80,000 miles, you better be changing the fluid in it. Things like that you can show, obviously, how to do. I think they get a bad rap in most cases. Where is your thoughts on the brand overall right now?
To be honest, I don't think I kind of alluded this earlier. I think everyone kind of has their thing, and I don't think they're any worse than anyone else. I mean, it's so individual, and like my experience with Chevys has been brutal. Mm-hmm. I have had nothing but problems with Chevys that I bought. And sorry, Danny, but BMWs have been a nightmare for me.
They are. Unless you
know? It's one of those things where unless you're taking it in for the $1,500,
I made a lot of money on BMW until the economy fell out, and then I didn't make any money because it cost a shit ton of money to fix the BMW.
Mm-hmm. And so for sure, I don't think they're any worse than anyone else. And do I think that they're far better than the masses? Well, no, but I think they're absolutely right where they should be. They make decent cars. They know their market. I know that they're coming out with a new line pretty soon, which looks, in my opinion, pretty exciting.
Right.
And it's been one of those things where you have, and Nissan has done this in the past, right, where they've kind of had to reinvent themselves.
Yes.
And kind of reinvigorate their base. And I really hope that's what this is, to be honest. I really hope that the things that they're releasing really do excite and bring some of it back for Nissan.
Right.
Because they got to, regardless of whether or not a stigma is fair, they got to shake it, right? So
of course. So what did
I believe you meant irregardless, which is apparently now in the Webster's dictionary.
Is it really?
I don't know if that's real or not. It just somebody posted some BS thing on Facebook and I saw it and made me laugh.
So what is your I'm sorry, Danny, what's your opinion on the 400 supposedly 400? And then Danny, I'll
400Z.
Yes.
If they actually have that flat back like the old, what is it, the 240?
Yeah.
240 through 280.
I will be pumped, honestly. I think that if they bring it back, they need to make it truly fast. Not that the the 370 wasn't fast. It's just they need to make it like a legit sports car, right? Keep the coupe.
Take
don't do
the
anything
fat out.
like, yeah, trim it down. Don't do any BS like they did with the Eclipse or like ruining the badge, right? Totally just ruining the badge. But if they stick with the heritage and make it a driver's car, I think it'd be super exciting. Absolutely.
Not last question, but so you alluded, I mean, you said you owned a Leaf, which was bad for YouTube business, but kind of melding these questions together, how did you like the Leaf in and of itself for what it was? And also I'd like to know what year you had, kind of if you had the newer or the older one, but then how have you looked into the Ariya, and how do you feel about electric cars? I know it's kind of a bunch of loaded questions, but where do you stand on those? Having owned one?
So my Nissan Leaf was my first experience with electric cars, and so far it's been my only, as far as actually owning one. And to be honest, I really loved it. I think being, and not to like bring my brand back into it, but being a car guy or being a car guy in general, right? I think you can appreciate the style or the design or the way things drive. No matter what car it is. I've owned everything from early 90s Chevy Cavalier or a G10 van, if you remember those, all the way up to BMWs and Mercedes and Lexus and all that. And you just appreciate them in different ways, right? And do you get the feeling of a Tesla, or do you get the feeling of a big V8 when you drive a Leaf? No, but that's not what you should expect.
Right.
And so if you kind of set your expectations and say, this is what this car was designed for, this is what it's made for, a commuter car where you never have to go to a gas station, then it's actually a really great little car. And it was one we owned for a couple years. I owned a 2011. It was either 11 or a 13. And it was, I mean, zero issues. We had one warranty replacement. We had a hub, but as far as the actual drivetrain, zero problems with it. And it was really, really neat. It felt like the future, even though when I bought it, it was probably 4 or 5 years old.
Right.
It felt like a great little car.
How expensive? How expensive were the oil changes?
Oh, through the roof.
Electrical oil is expensive.
To my guy, he charges me $150 each time. He says I need to do it every 200 miles. I was like, dang.
What was some of the quirkiness of it that took you from going from a V8 or a combustion engine to electric? What was some of the, like, you're like, this just doesn't feel right, or this is too cool?
Also, what's a combustion engine?
Combustible. Sorry, Danny. Sorry, dude. Come on, man.
The combustion engine is new. It's kind of like a rotary.
So, well, two things about it. So I never moved to it like as my only car.
Right.
So I'm always fortunate enough to have space to have like between 3 or 4 cars at any given time. And so I go with really kind of purpose, not in purpose built, but like purpose purchased vehicles, if that sounds weird. It's like I have this car to do this, I have this car to do that, and that's what I use them for. So when I bought the Leaf, I commuted in it to work, and you know it in your head that you never have to go to a gas station, but it just seems so weird and so cool and so futuristic that you go home, and we had a wall mount, a charger. We had like a third-party Clipper Creek, I think it was, wall mounted. I just go into my garage, I plug it in, and that was it. And another cool feature that I thought was like mind-blowing at the time is you schedule your car to turn on. So if it's cold out, you say, hey, tomorrow morning, you need to start and warm up this car by 7:30 so I can get in the car and get there by 8. And it's something that you can't do really you certainly can't do it with internal combustion engines, right? You're going to kill yourself in your garage.
I had a remote start, but yeah, it does.
Well, sure. I just mean in your garage. You can't just tell it to, right? But it was it was super cool. That's one thing that really blew me away. And then, but at the end of the day, the thing that felt really common about it is that it's just another little hatchback, and it has a bunch of space in the back, and you can haul around people, and it's just another car. It was
Did
really
you
neat.
ever? I know towing for electric vehicles is kind of the nightmare right now. And I know Ford and everybody's rushing to make a truck that does it. But did you ever notice battery life changing when you had maybe 4 people in it versus just you in it?
Yeah, and so absolutely, and it was dramatic in some
Really?
cases. For in the wintertime, I was born in northern New York, raised in Michigan, so kind of a Middle East or Middle East, a mid Midwest guy. What am I talking about? But
We're all getting silly tonight.
It's getting crazy in New York these days.
Amen. So
Dang gone immigrants.
so Midwest boy, raised in Michigan, but even in Florida in the wintertime, if it's like below 70, I have the heat running.
Right.
And so the heat and the AC would slaughter the battery.
Right.
And so if you wanted to run, forget about it. Cut your mileage in half. And it was one of those things where I'm sure this is true for any electric car. It says you have a certain amount of battery left, right? And even if you turn on the heater, it's supposed to adjust and does, it adjusts how much time or how much miles you have left. It still didn't matter. I mean, if it said 70 miles and you were running the heat, it was 45 or 50, So it was dramatic.
And that was the battery that was supposed to get what, like 95, 93 miles per charge, something like that?
Yes, it was just under 100.
Yeah.
And when we bought it, it was still within the acceptable level of variance. Like they have a variance that says if it drops below a certain point by a certain time, then they'll warranty replace the batteries.
Mm-hmm.
So it was within that threshold. I think we were at 80% capacity, and we were still getting a solid 75 miles out of it.
Right.
But we never ventured too far. Down here in Florida, you never have to go, like if you live in the city, you never have to go more than 5 miles in any direction to get whatever you need. So.
Was it charging a pain though when you were in town?
Well, I actually, funny you say that. It depends on where you're at, right? So I actually moved it up to Michigan when I moved to Michigan for a while, and I just had it shipped. And I lived in Ann Arbor, which is a notorious. I didn't live in Ann Arbor. I lived
Go Buckeyes, by the way.
Oh, come on, go Blue! I worked for the Wolverines, man. I used to work in the big house.
Hey, man, my wife is from Michigan, so it's like that one game a year is like a battle. Anyway, sorry, I've been waiting to throw that in.
Nice, but Ann Arbor is just rife with chargers. No, everywhere you go, there's chargers.
Right.
Down here, it's a lot less, but even so, it just takes a little tiny bit of extra planning. It just says, hey, if we're gonna go too far away from the house, is there going to be a charger? If not, we just have to take another car.
Right. Does it, like Danny was asking though earlier, have you paid attention to the Ariya that drops Wednesday?
Yeah, so I haven't seen any. Aren't they just doing like silhouette type mock-up shows of it right now?
They did a concept vehicle, and they're showing production model this Wednesday.
Nice, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's supposed to be about a 300 range SUV. Right in the $40,000 to $45,000 range. So it's supposed to be a little bit wider and sportier than the Rogue, which I kind of see the Ariya replacing the Murano.
Yes.
So I think that's where they're pushing. It's gonna give a lot more luxury. There's no more switches. Everything's it's very Tesla-esque, I guess. So it's touchscreen and stuff like that. So. We're pretty excited about to see how that comes about. Kind of an interesting, Nissan's been into the electrics for a long time, and they're looking to jump into the SUV world because that's where they make all their money, I think.
Well, Danny, our insider DD here says the Ariya will have a heat pump to avoid range loss. Rye, what's your thoughts on that?
Hey, there's two things with electric cars. They need to feel super futuristic, and they need to have range. Those are the two big things, man. It needs to feel like when you're in it that you're in a spaceship and that you can go more than 50 miles in it, right?
Yeah.
So
I think having like all these people, some people talk about how quick and how fast the Teslas are and how they're planted to the ground. Like that is, in my opinion, the amount of torque and power you get out of electric motors is so far superior.
Oh, they crush
I mean, really,
supercars.
they crush supercars. It's so far superior. You don't need that as much. It's not something that you have to upgrade. Make like this is our selling point. This thing has 1,000,000 horsepower or whatever. However they want to kilojoule power. But you're totally right in the fact that it doesn't matter if this thing can murder supercars if it only goes 100 miles. You cannot fully replace a standard combustion engine that can just put gas on and go, put gas on and go, put gas on and go, and travel across the U.S. That needs to be an option for people who want to sometimes just have that option. And it's become such a staple of American life to be able to drive 700 miles if you want to, and especially in these times where nobody wants to get on a plane. It's
more important than ever.
It has to have charging ability. It has to have fast charging ability, and the infrastructure for that fast charging has to be available. So I kind of see Tesla possibly turning over some of their charge capacity in the future, maybe to less proprietary. I think there's a possibility. Maybe they charge a shite ton, an extra bunch of extra, but somebody's in a pinch and they got to use a Tesla station, or change the adapter and stick it in for a fast charge or something like that. But without infrastructure, there's no point in having one.
At some point, somebody has to be the dominant guy and says this is the standard charging. Like that's the one bummer it seems like right now of EV vehicles is everybody wants to create their own technology. And they might as well bow to Tesla on this one because Tesla's already they've already created the
they've dumped so much money in infrastructure that it's gonna be maybe you have to put an adapter on your thing on your charge cable or something like that,
but maybe
something.
That's how they win the EV game. Is it's a long-term play of we're going to beat everybody. Sure, they can catch up to us technology-wise, but we've got you beat because you can't charge your vehicle.
Well, I think one big thing, and it's kind of whether or not this is a good decision by Tesla, I'm sure it is to completely restrict or create a proprietary system in which you can charge your car.
Oh, this leads me right down to where I want to go.
That's the thing that annoys me is that even if you let's say there's adapters like aftermarket or something where you could actually go with it. Problem is that there's so much tech in it that it knows that it's connected to a Tesla and that it's not connected to something else. And so if you've noticed, Tesla's business model that you've seen sort of with their upgrades, where they create basically the same car, but they unlock more range by turning a key in the software.
Yeah.
They see something very well being the same way, where there's some sort of tech that they can turn on or off on certain charging stations that says, yes, we can allow this one to charge with these networks. We can allow this one to charge with these cars, but no one else.
So
I see some serious buffoonery going on in that space.
so our buddy Flytrap hit me up the other day, and the guy I despise the most, Scotty Kilmer, which is just like he's one of the king of YouTubers as far as car channels, but it's so misinformation, man. Just his latest video on the Xterra was horribly it's like he looked at Wikipedia that my child typed up and just said, well, that's it. But Scotty, there's a video where a guy was asking about, he was a computer guy, and he was asking, hey, like you're saying, manufacturers are able to code in the amount of ability to use their product. They're starting to do that. So now it's coming out, and me and Danny, we haven't researched this a ton, and we're going to get into this more in future shows. But so I believe it's Chrysler now is starting to limit, you can read a code in your car, an error code, but you cannot clear those codes unless you go to a dealership. I mean, if you as a car guy, and once again, I haven't researched much of this topic, but it was brought up to me, and I thought it was interesting, especially with you being a car repair channel. That's coming because I've read about 5 years ago that they've been battling the U.S. government slightly about, hey, this is their cars, especially with EV cars. They're not cars anymore. They're going to consider it something else. Yeah, so they can somehow legally they can protect their IP, what's your thoughts on some of that?
I find that incredibly irritating. So, I mean, to be able to say, we have control over this product even after you buy it and it's yours and you own it, we still have this sense of control over it. It's always annoyed me. Honestly, I think that kind of going back to the VAG group, I think they've been doing that kind of stuff for years with special tools and special little techniques, all different kinds of things that where basically unless you want to just risk it all and try it yourself, you should take it to a dealership. And it's not necessarily that, those people aren't the best people to working on them. Absolutely. I mean, if they built the car and they know how to maintain it, but for people like us, for people who do want to maintain or work on their own cars, I think it's incredibly unfair to say, here, go buy this vehicle for $40,000, and then when you get it into your garage, we're going to tell you what you can and can't do.
Well, and then the state of California is starting to go, well, you can't work on your car in your garage.
Oh. well, I don't.
Don't get me started, Dave.
Yeah, I like California in a lot of ways.
Right.
That's not one of them.
But it is like you were saying though. It's okay now. The manufacturer's saying basically you're just leasing our IP, and then the states are going to back them up with that and go, oh yeah, and by law you're not even allowed to work on your vehicle in your garage.
So I can see. So I know that there's some models or business models, if you will, where I think Volvo's doing it, where there's like subscription lease programs, and I'm totally into that. If you want to tell me that if I'm working on a subscription basis and you don't want me to touch your car because I have to give it back to you in 2 months, that's fine, cool, whatever. But if I'm either loaning out money from a bank or I'm saving up money and I'm buying this vehicle and it's mine, I should be able to do whatever the heck I want to it. If I want to push it off a cliff, that's my prerogative. Don't tell me what I can and can't do.
Yeah, I like your perspective on that. I think even in certain aspects of leasing, maybe a contract that says if I'm going to lease this vehicle without the intention to buy, or with the intention to buy, let's just say it's without the intention to buy, I will bring it here to service it, and if I don't, then these are the problems with that scenario. Especially when you bring it to a system that's self-driving. Nissan, what's their newest, Dave? You may be better at
ProPilot 2.0.
ProPilot 2.0. That's exactly what I see. Dave's that's why we work so good with those.
Over there.
When they're, there's a lot of mechanical and electrical mind work. I don't know, for lack of a better word. Most mechanics aren't prepared to tackle those types of systems because they are engineered. And I speak to this from a BMW mechanic's perspective.
Oh, wait. Cheers.
I'm all out, but
in some of my last years at BMW, I would spend all day typing up a report to an engineer who would then reply to me, say, check this and check that, check these wires, run this diagnostic through the test set, send me the information, and then he would tell me what to do. And it literally, I was just working with the engineers on how the engineers wanted me to, I was almost like the engineer's lackey, and I think when you have ProPilot cars, almost self-driving cars, that's going to be extremely, I think it's a new wave of how we see mechanics and how we see engineering come to repairs. Maybe you can only do brake jobs and tires outside of the program or whatever, but I think that there's going to be a little bit of a change when it comes to electric vehicles and self-driving cars. I think there has to be, due to the fact that there's so much programming built into it, and the programming side, unless you have a certified programming facility, which who knows, kids are getting smarter. I don't know anything about programming other than Danny, zeros and ones and
Danny, as a mechanic,
commands. And
as a mechanic though, these cars now are basically supercomputers with two or four electric motors on them. So the odds of something breaking down are just one of those motors, or it's a programming issue, right?
Well, cars for a long time, I think, will still have ball joints. They'll still have bushings.
Yeah.
They'll still have shocks. They'll still have tires. They'll still have brakes. So there's still a lot of stuff that home mechanics will still be able to fix. But yes, I mean,
But nothing like the internal combustion.
yeah, we will, in my opinion, we will always have internal combustion market. Just because we are still driving cars from 1950. We still have Model Ts on the road. There's always going to be some kind of love for this history. Like, we're, as humankind, as I wrap this up and burp because I've had so many beers, humankind loves nostalgia. You see it every single day when my daughter walks in the door with bell-bottom jeans on and tells me she wants a cabinet for her record player because we have 400 records in the living room. Because she wants to listen to some Creedence and some Jimi Hendrix. I'm like, cool. I wasn't even into that. Like, but we have this love for history, and history repeats itself. And there's so many. If you've never watched the movie The Fastest Indian,
no,
and you're a motorhead, I beg of you, Anthony Hopkins, one of the best actors out there. If you're a motorhead and you watch that movie, you'll be almost in tears over a man building something to do something cool because it's his passion. But it's like this human desire for building something fun and doing something with your hands. And our history has so much in it, and we want to hold on to that, and like memories. And so I have no idea where I'm going with any of this, but that's kind of like the human project is we love history so much, but we love the future so much. We want to shoot to Mars, but at the same time we want to drive a 57 Chevy or a 69 Camaro or a 66 Mustang. And we want it all, and we want it all right now, and we want it all yesterday, and we want to put it on credit.
But you know what I don't want to drive?
And that's the human condition.
Is an electric vehicle called a Mustang.
Amen to that.
Listen, I would drive an electric Mustang if it didn't look like that thing that Dude, overweight baby that they blasted out of some kind of
Danny, when
D5 aircraft that you wanted to push back inside and say no thanks.
So Danny, I got to hang out with that car in a Chicago auto show, and the side profile of that car is amazing. It is a really nice looking vehicle, but they shoved, like, the way they shoved Mustang taillights on the rear of it just forced them in there. I can even buy the front of it a little bit, but I guarantee you in 2 years after that thing's released, they don't call it a Mustang anymore.
I can see that. I can see a plate change. But I'll tell you what, though. If you had to take the S550, the latest body, if you stuffed just a wicked motor in there and made it fully electric, guarantee you people would buy it. Absolutely.
It would be, I mean, because it's a beautiful car. When Ford, gosh, we keep slipping into Ford talk because
Flytrap coming in. Thank you, sir.
We talk so much Bronco stuff every once in a while because it's in kind of our market. But Ford came out with that retro Mustang. You're more of a connoisseur, but I remember opening up Motor Trend magazine and showing the first year when they retroed the Mustang. They came out with that body style, and then over the years they've tweaked it and changed it or whatever. But they came out that retro Mustang. Must have been like 2000 or something like that. But the Mustang is so iconic, and if you can do fatty burnouts, you just need to add some kind of sound to it. Even if it's fake, if you can do a fatty burnout into a crowd in a Mustang, there's going to be happy people.
Yeah, electric
and not happy people, I guess.
Well, whatever.
Well, we could take this. We could take this on forever, guys. Thank you so much for all the super chats tonight, man. I do appreciate that a lot. If you have not yet, go to Ryan's Facebook or his Instagram page. Ryan, do you have a Facebook page for your channel?
I do not.
Nice.
Do not.
You're a good man. You're a smart man.
I've been trying not to.
Smart.
But go to his Instagram and show him what our little Nissan group is, and throw him. I don't care when you watch this, throw him a few likes on there, and let's help him get that Instagram going, because he's only got 20,000 subs on here. We're only at like almost 2,600 guys. Like, we gotta help this guy get somewhere, okay? Ryan, we're gonna help make something of you, okay?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Go subscribe to his YouTube channel right after you're done with this. Ride the Car Guy. Very easy to find. He's like I said, he's got a bunch of great videos. If you're not subscribed to him, you can learn so much, even if it's just something simple. I learned, I've been through my truck a million times and pulled my intake and race truck and Frontier and whatnot. I learned something from him today just because I was shooting through his channels. Just kind of making myself more aware of what he does, and sure enough, I learned something cool. So there's nothing wrong with being smarter about things. So go subscribe to his channel, because he is putting out great content nonstop, and he's a cool guy, obviously, as you can tell.
Yeah. So Ryan, next time you just let us know when you want to come back on here. Clearly our audience liked you tonight, and guys, thank you once again for all the cool questions. And if I missed your question, I apologize. Like, sometimes the chat gets moving pretty good. Ryan, what's the best way is it YouTube to get a hold of, like, to follow you?
Absolutely. Definitely hit me up on YouTube. I'm still at the point where I try to respond to every single comment. So if you have any questions about anything that you watch, hit me up. I'll try to be there for you. Absolutely.
Well, all right, guys.
That's awesome, man.
So from all things Nissan here in Middle Tennessee to way over in Southern California to down in the panhandle of what we call Florida, this has been your Nissan Nation. And what are we, Danny?
We're out.
Peace, everybody. Thank you guys so much, and we will see y'all next Sunday.
Thanks, everyone.